Hotel on the Corner of Bitter and Sweet. Chapter 21. Hello, hello. The year is 1942. When Henry finally opened his eyes again, he saw nothing but darkness. What time is it? What day? How long have I been asleep? His thoughts raced as he rubbed his eyes and blinked, doing his best to wake up. A sliver of moonlight peeked behind the blackout curtains on his bedroom window. Something had woken him. What was it? A sound? Then he heard it again, a ringing in the kitchen. He stretched, reorienting once again to time and place, then rolled his feet to the cold wooden floor, sitting up. His eyes adjusting to the darkness, Henry could make out the silhouette of a serving tray in his room. His mother had thoughtfully left him dinner. She'd even put the vase with her starfire lily on the tray for simple decoration. There it was again, the unmistakable sound of their telephone ringing. Henry still wasn't quite used to its loud, jarring bell. Fewer than half of the homes in Seattle had telephones, and even fewer had them in Chinatown. His father had insisted on having one installed when the United States had declared war on the Axis powers. He was a block warden, and his responsibilities included staying in touch. With whom exactly, Henry didn't know. The phone rang again, clanging like a wind-up alarm clock. Henry started to yawn, but froze partway as he thought about Chaz. He now knows where I live. He could be outside waiting for me right now, waiting for me to come wandering out unawares, taking out the trash or bringing in the laundry. Then he'd pounce, getting even, without teachers and playground monitors to get in the way. He peered through the heavy, musty curtains, but the street, 2 stories below, looked cold and empty, damp from a recent rainstorm. In the kitchen, he could hear his mother answering, "Wei Wei, hello, hello." Henry opened his door, patting down the hallway toward the bathroom. His mother was mumbling something on the phone about not speaking English. She waved at Henry, pointing at the phone. The call was for him. Sort of. "Hello?" he asked. Henry was used to handling all the wrong numbers. They were usually in English, or calls from census takers polling the Asian community. Strange women asking Henry how old he was and if he was the man of the house. "Henry, I need your help." It was Keiko. She sounded calm but direct. He hesitated, not having expected Keiko's soft voice. He started speaking in whispered tones, then remembered his parents didn't speak English anyway. "Are you okay? You weren't at school. Is your family okay? Can you meet me at the park? The park we met at last time." She was being vague, deliberately vague. Henry could talk freely, but obviously she couldn't. He thought about the operators who often listened in and understood. When? Now? Tonight? Can you meet me in an hour? An hour? Henry's mind raced. It's already after dark. What'll I tell my parents? Finally, he agreed. 1 hour. I'll try my best. I'll find a way. Thank you. Goodbye. She paused for a moment. Just as Henry thought she might say something, she hung up. A sharp, chirpy female voice cut in on the line. "The other party has disconnected. Would you like for me to assist you in another call?" Henry hung up immediately, as if he'd been caught stealing. His mother was standing there when he turned around. She had a look Henry couldn't distinguish between curiosity and concern. "What? You have a girlfriend, maybe?" she asked. Henry shrugged and spoke in English. "I don't know." And truth be told, he didn't. If his mother thought it was odd that the little girl calling her son didn't speak Chinese, she didn't say anything. Maybe she thought all parents were forcing their children to speak their American. Who knew? Maybe they all were. Henry thought about how he'd get to Kobe Park after hours, after blackout. He was glad he'd slept earlier. It was shaping up to be a very long night. Henry waited most of the hour in his room. It had been almost 9 o'clock when Keiko called. His parents had settled into bed around 9:30, not because they were particularly tired, but because going to bed early was the prudent thing to do. Saving electricity for the war effort was like a sacrament to Henry's father. After briefly listening and hearing no sign of his parents, Henry opened his window and crept down the fire escape. The ladder reached only halfway to the ground, but near enough to a closed dumpster for recycled tires. Henry removed his shoes and leapt for the dumpster, which made a muffled clanging as his stocking feet landed on the heavy metal lid. Getting up again would be a bit of a scramble, but doable, he thought, putting his shoes back on. As he walked along the damp sidewalks, his breath came out in a swirling mist, adding to the fog rolling in off the water. He tried to stay in the shadows, despite the fear that crept into his mind and curdled his stomach. Henry had never been out this late by himself, though with the crowds of people that bustled up and down the avenues, he hardly felt alone. All the way down South King, the street was awash in the stain of neon signs that defied the blackout restrictions. Signs for bars and nightclubs reflected greens and reds in each puddle he jumped over. The occasional car would drive by, bathing the street in its dim blue headlights, illuminating the men and women, Chinese and Caucasian, enjoying the nightlife, despite the rationing. Crossing 7th Avenue and entering Nihonmachi was like stepping onto the dark side of the moon. No lights, no cars moving, everything locked down. Even the Manila restaurant had boards across its windows to protect them from vandals, despite being owned by Filipinos, not Japanese. The streets were empty all the way along Maynard Avenue. From the Janagi grocery to the Nippon Con Hall, Henry saw no one, except for Keiko. At Kobe Park, across from the Kabuki Theater, he waved as he found her sitting on the hill, like last time, surrounded by a grove of cherry trees whose blossoms were beginning to bud. After walking up the steep hill of the terraced park, Henry caught his breath and sat on a rock beside her. She looked pale in the moonlight, shivering in the cold Seattle air.